We're doing a series of lessons which I'm calling climate changers, how to bring about change in your church, in your organization. This particular lesson, we're going to deal with the subject of authority, and I'm entitling this lesson, How Strongly is the Wind Blowing? Looking at authority in the leader's life. Every leader has to deal with this issue. It's difficult for us to initiate planned change within an organization without the necessary authority. If you don't have the authority to accomplish it, you're not going to be able to bring about successful change. One of the things that's happened over the years has been the authority that was once granted to elected officials is decreasing. That is a big change in the way that our world operates. See, it's a big shift that's taken place today from what we would call bestowed authority to earned authority. Leaders are expected to earn the right to lead in today's culture. Now, there's so many leaders that make this mistake, and I've made it myself. We're tempted to believe that a brilliant idea or a carefully thought out plan will automatically carry authority based on its own merits. But that is not true. It's not true. In fact, here's what I've discovered. Lesson number one about authority. Authority usually rests in organizations and individuals, not in ideas. Now let that soak in for a moment, because so many times we think if we've got a great idea or a brilliant plan, it automatically, people are going to follow it. They're going to line up behind it. No, that's not true, because they're following the leaders of the organization or the individuals that are the influences within their life. And so every proposal for change requires a support group. You've got to have leadership that is respected, or the change is not going to take place. Now, it is true that every person may have a vote, but some votes count more than other votes. In other words, some individuals carry more weight. They have a greater influence upon others. And so we've got to factor that into leading through change. Here's lesson number two that I've learned. Every leader needs less authority to maintain the status quo than to make changes. In other words, if I'm just going to be a manager and I'm going to manage what I have been given, the organization that I'm at that leadership position, if I'm only going to be a manager, it doesn't take a lot of authority. But it takes more authority to make big changes, and particularly big changes over small changes. Small changes doesn't take a lot of authority to do that, but if you're going to lead through a radical change, it's going to take a lot of influence. Here's lesson number three that I learned. Lesson number three, it is wise to affirm the benefits of change from several places of authority. In other words, not just yourself, you're going to need some other leaders in this group that are going to be influencers that's on your team. They believe that change is necessary. See, the reason behind this is some people will reject authority from one source while accepting it from another source. And they do that basically because of relationships. Their family, their friends, the people that influences their life, they're in favor of this. So usually they will be in favor as well. But to try to do that alone, you're not going to be successful. So let me give you 6 different ways that you can increase authority in your life. 6 different ways. Here's point number 1. Do not put all your eggs in one basket. Boy, that is just a a true statement of wisdom for life. When you do that, it is very risky, because if anything goes wrong here, then you are in trouble. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. I'm saying that our authority will increase when it's recognized from several different sources. If you've gathered people around you that have different gifts, different talents, different abilities, that they believe in you, they believe in the change, they're on board, it's going to increase the chances of you being successful in the change. Here's the second way that you can increase your authority. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. In other words, nobody else can see at all. At least you have one eye that is able to see. See, that's what we have to do as leaders. We build on our strengths, on the gifts that God has given to us and to our leadership team. There are so many things that we have no control over whatsoever in life. But one of the things that you can do is improve the gifts and talents that God has given to you. And if you will do that, the one-eyed man becomes king because he sees something that nobody else can see. Here's the third way that you can increase your authority. Knowledge is the greatest single source of authority. Now, I want to slow down there for just a moment because I really believe this is true. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And that's why every leader should be well informed. You should study. You should research. You should get the best people around you can for counsel and advice. Learn everything you possibly can about the necessary change. Surround yourself with the best counsel that is available, because knowledge is power. And if you will learn more about it than they know about it, then they will be willing to listen to you. That's a lot of what leading and teaching is all about. It's just know one thing, know something they don't know, and then you go share it with them. Here's the fourth way that we can increase our authority. Productive hard work will give us authority. Now, the key word there in that statement is productive. Productive hard work. You've got to be able to produce something. Talk is cheap, and if all you ever do is talk about it, people will come to ignore you. But the person that has accomplished something, he did what he said he was going to do, he will have more authority than the person that just talked about it. This is always true. And so if we're going to increase our authority, we've got to have productive, hard labor. We've got to work harder than a lot of other people are working, and we've got to be able to produce something, because products are always more impressive than promises. There's so many people, they talk about things continually. They make promises, but you never see any fruit of that. You never see them accomplish anything. And so because of that, they lose influence, they lose authority rather than gain authority. Now here's the fifth thing. If you're going to increase your authority, the person that can provide the money has authority. See, money is always a factor. Resources is always a factor in anything that we do in life. It takes money to live. It takes money to build. It takes money to accomplish anything. We've got to have the resources to do it. So the person that can either provide the resources or he can raise the money has authority. See, without the money that's necessary to implement the change, all plans will ultimately fail. It's been well said that without vision, the people will perish. But someone has said, without provision, the vision will perish. And that is true. money is always a factor, so you must be able to raise the necessary funds to be able to implement the change. And if you're able to do that, then people are ready to listen to you. People are willing to accept your authority. Now, here's the sixth way. If we are going to increase our authority, is learn to use crisis situations to advance your cause. A widely perceived crisis changes the rules of the way that we're going to do things, the way that we're going to accomplish things. Now, here's a key word. That key word is widely perceived. In other words, it's not just one or two people that sees it, but everybody can see this crisis that is happening. They can see that there's a problem. We've got to do something. And so when it comes to being widely perceived, then the people know something must be done. And when they realize that, then they're willing to accept your leadership. They're willing to accept your authority and the ideas, whatever it is, and line up behind you to help you accomplish and fulfill the vision that you have for the organization. Now, let me give you 6 different ways that we can measure the authority that we have. I've given you 6 ways that we can increase our authority. Here are 6 ways to measure the authority that you have. Number 1, what is the size of our congregation? It's quite obvious from this picture. This man, he might have a fishing club, but it's a small one, that's for sure. His little church out in the middle of the lake is not going to influence a lot of people. And so you've got to look, how many people are following you? As someone has well said, if you think you're a leader but no one is following you, you're not a leader. You're just a man out taking a walk. And that is so true. So the size of your congregation, how many people are willing to listen to you? Here's the second way to measure your authority: the length of our tenure. How long have you been doing this? And see, the 25-year-old man is never going to have the same authority as the 45-year-old or the 55-year-old leader. He will not have the same. Why? Because of the advantage of age and experience. He's just getting started, and they've done this before. They've been through crisis before. They've been through situations before. They've led through change successfully. And so because of that, people are more ready to listen to them and follow their leadership. Now, here's the third way that you can measure your authority is your age and experience. That builds on what I was just saying. It's not just the time that you spent, but the experience that you have with that. I remember them telling the story of the lady that complained because she had been working 14 years as a teacher, and someone that had come in only 2 or 3 years had been promoted as her supervisor. And she complained, "I have 14 years experience." And the boss said, "No, ma'am, I must disagree. You don't have 14 years experience. You've got 1 year's experience 14 times. And so it's the experience. What have you been able to accomplish? What have you done? What have you learned? What have you been able to fulfill the vision within your life and leadership? And so it's a way that we can measure our authority. The fourth one is a combination of things. It's a combination of knowledge. Remember, knowledge is power. Of hard work and trustworthiness. Now, this is, I think, where most of us come as leaders, because even though we may have some charisma, and we all do to a certain extent, even though we have certain gifts and talents, they're not equal. But the thing that you can do that is going to help you to be a good leader is put it all together. Knowledge, hard work, trustworthiness. Those things, when you continually do what you say you're going to do, when you're willing to work harder than those that are around you, when you're willing to research, study, surround yourself with good sources of knowledge, it's going to increase your authority. It's a way to measure the authority that you have before you attempt to implement change. This, I think, is what happens to too many leaders, is they begin trying to implement their vision before they have the authority to do so. And so that brings me to my fifth point. A way to measure your authority is your own personal character. See, if you're going to lead the rest of your life, if you're going to lead for 30 years, you're going to have to live right. You're going to have to be honest. You're going to have to treat people with respect and decency. And I see this is where many young leaders make mistakes, is that they because of what they believe to be a great idea, they're willing to walk on people. They're willing to hurt people to implement their goals. That's a short-term effect, my friend. It may make a big splash, but that's about all that it will leave, is a big splash. Your personal character. Are you a person they can trust? I remember learning this in my life very young. I can distinctly remember when God deals with you, those things are just, they impact your life so you never forget them. And I can remember one day, I was shaving early in the morning, and I'm looking in the mirror directly in my face as I'm shaving, and all of a sudden, God spoke to me. And I say that with respect, because that doesn't happen every day. It doesn't even happen every month. But there are times when I know that was God talking, and He said to me, "Who would like to be like you?" Boy, I stopped and I thought, I couldn't think of anybody that would like to be like me. And that's when I realized I had to develop my character. I had to become a man of God. I had to do whatever was necessary to live this vision, not just dream the vision. So your personal character is one of the things that will determine how much authority you have in your life. And then the sixth thing, again, is a combination of skills, spiritual gifts, and vision. Leadership skills, spiritual gifts, and vision. You combine that together and it makes a powerful package. It's not enough just to have leadership skills. You've got to be able to discipline them to accomplish something. It's not enough to have great gifts and talents. There's a lot of people that have great gifts, but they're wasting it. They're never fulfilling it because they're not disciplined, and then they do not have clear vision. But when you put those things together, when you combine them together, it helps you to be able to develop the authority that you are going to need to be able to be a successful leader. I think every organization is facing this challenge, and it's probably one of the biggest challenges that we all face in life, is how to implement planned change within the organization. How am I going to be able to accomplish this? How am I going to be able to fulfill the vision? Well, these are some of the ways that you can increase your authority, the influence that you have upon others. Because I personally believe that is a leader's greatest power. It's not his position. The position is simply permission to lead. A title, no, it's not in the title. It's the influence that you have upon others. The influence. If they're willing to follow you, if they're willing to learn from you, if they're willing to get quiet and listen to you, then that tells me you are a person of influence, a person of authority. And you will be able to lead the people wherever they need to go. Tragically, so many people do not have that within their life, and so they're being influenced by people that don't know what they're talking about. They're being influenced by people that are leading the wrong direction. In fact, I think it's one of the most dangerous things in life to have an extremely charismatic leader that's leading people the wrong way. Just because they have the charisma, just because they have great gifts and talents, doesn't mean they should be followed. No, not every leader with great charisma is worthy of following, because he may be leading you to your destruction. And so if we're going to accomplish what God wants us to accomplish with our lives, we need to take the time that is necessary to implement the change. You need to, and I know for people like myself, this is difficult to do, because I always feel like we should have done this yesterday. And that's not life. That's not reality. We live right now. Maybe we should have done it yesterday, but we didn't do it. So the first question to ask is, why didn't we do it? Then you start making the changes so that you can accomplish it today, right now. Take the time that is necessary to implement the change. Let me give you an illustration here. God gives us 9 months to prepare for the birth of a new baby. Oh yes, that can seem like a long time, and I'm sure particularly to the lady that is struggling with the pregnancy. She's sick, she's dealing with all kinds of different issues because of the pregnancy that's going on in her life. She goes from being one person to two people to becoming one again. That has got to be a traumatic experience for any lady. God gives us time. 9 months, in fact. 9 months to prepare for the birth of this new infant, this new baby. Why does he do that? Because God is a wise leader, that's why. And because God is wanting to make some changes. Yes, your family is growing. You know, life's never going to be the same again. There's going to be a radical change within your life when this baby arrives. And for we as men, we stand on the sidelines basically and watch this happen. But for the lady that's going through it, 9 months of all the struggles that she has. Why? Because something important is getting ready to take place, a radical change. Now, as a leader, you need to learn to think in the same way. Take the time that is necessary. Don't try to rush this. And particularly, the bigger the change, the more radical the change, the more time that you need in the process of doing it. See, you can turn a canoe around very quickly, but if you're sailing in one of these huge aircraft carriers, it's going to take a long time to make the bend, to make the turn. And we've got to do the same thing. If you're leading a small organization, of course, you can make changes more rapidly. But the larger the organization, the larger the church, the more time and planning and preparation that must go into effective change. Otherwise, you will find yourself being rejected, even though maybe it is a good change. Maybe it is something that will be a benefit and a blessing to everybody. But if you don't take the time to walk your people through that, take the time to teach them, to show them the benefits, be patient with them. If you don't do that, many times good plans have been rejected because they were not implemented in the proper way. So remember the birth of the baby. It's wise for us to take the time that is necessary to prepare our people for change. And let them know, yes, it's going to be different, but it's going to be better. We're going to find and learn some things here that's going to improve our church. We're going to be a better people. We're going to be more successful. We're going to be able to accomplish greater things because of these changes, necessary changes. And if we lead it in the proper way, we do it the right way, then God will help us. And our people will see the wisdom of that, and they will follow our leadership. I think for so many of us, this is the mistake that we make. We do not take time to build the consensus or to build our base of authority. We don't take the time, and because we don't do that, many times we're rejected, and we can take that personally and feel like that the people are doing us wrong. No, usually it comes back to ourselves and our leadership style. We're moving too quickly. We have not given them enough information. We've not allowed them to process this. And so the result is they reject a good idea. They reject a good plan, something that would be a benefit to everyone, simply because we as leaders did not take the time to build the authority base. And so I pray that you're able to see this and understand this in your own personal life, and you realize I've got to walk through this process. I don't need to try to rush this. I don't need to try to run through this as quick as I can. For too many times as leaders, because we've studied something for years and we've given so much thought and preparation to it, we think everybody understands. No, for many of them, this is the first time they're hearing it. And so we need to repeat it again and again in the right ways to teach them, to prepare them, so that they will be willing to follow us. I believe that for most pastors, we have a call of God upon our life, and that God wants us to lead our people through successful change. But we can't do it haphazardly. We cannot do it carelessly. We can only do it properly if we have taken the time to prepare ourselves, to prepare our people to be able to accomplish what God has given us. And so I pray in your journey of leadership that God will help you to learn these secrets of authority, how you can increase your authority, to judge where you are so that you can be a successful leader and bring about successful change.